How you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly back at it again with another video about CFB26. So I appreciate y'all. Huge shout out to every single one of you guys who've watched my last couple videos. Whether you pull up to the streams, show up to the VODs, leave a like, leave a comment. I appreciate all the support. And if you are curious about the videos I'm talking about, let me go ahead and shamelessly plug to them right now. So yes, huge shout out to all you guys for massively killing the support on all these videos. If you have any general questions of anything in the game, whether it's what's the best coach build, Beastly, how do you recruit so well to get 15, ish elite slash star dev players a cycle, what playbooks do you use, all the, fun little pipeline stuff with your coach build, whether it's, how to upgrade your players, how to prepare your players for future seasons. Hell, what do even the stats mean? I have a playlist on my channel titled How To Dynasty. Go watch the series. So if you learn anything, make sure to smash a like on any of those videos, leave me a comment, and yeah, guys, back to the video. Okay, so considering how controversial my last video was doing the breaking down the perks in this game, I did not know how many just absolute crayon eating, glue sniffing, mouth breathing individuals would, plague the comments of that video. Shout out to every single person who actually didn't watch the architect video, but left a comment glazing how absolute OP this perk is when it's terrible. More or less, I'm not going to waste much time in this video because this is a video for a different perk, but that video was hilarious. The comments were funny to read. And so yeah, this video, however, I know for a fact is going to probably anger some people, but hey, I'm just, speaking facts. I'm giving you the data. Don't, kill the messenger. If you like the perk, you like the perk. If you don't like the perk, you don't gotta like the perk, right? I'm just some dude on the internet yelling in front of a microphone. I have no actual power over your life. Do what makes you happy. But to the people who actually want to learn the intricacies to this game, the perks, stuff like that, that's what I'm here for. So this video will be me yapping about Strategist while also showing you in the background tier 4 Mind Reader. Now, yes, you don't have to go 4 layers or 4 tiers deep into Strategist. I get that. I do. However, when I look at these perks, like Architect, for example, I don't judge Architect off how well you can, progress players with XP. Because that's not why you buy the perk. You buy Architect to remove skill caps. In the same vein, you don't really buy Strategist to have slightly better visits for tier 1 and tier 2. No, if you buy Strategist, you're going all the way to tier 3 for the Dealbreakers, or you're going to tier 4 for the Mind Reader. So for the, obligatory comments I'm always going to see in every one of these videos I do. Well, actually, streamer, actually, YouTuber, no. If you go into this perk, you are going to either go to tier 3 or tier 4. The very rare circumstances will you ever go to tier 1 and 2. Either way, I digress. But yeah, this video will be more or less breaking stuff down, giving you my opinions, and showing you basically a compare and contrast. So for starters, tier 1, boost to complimentary visits for your quarterbacks. I think all of the tier 1 for it is good. The issue is you have to have all of them. And what I mean by that is if you, for example, buy Strategist, but you only buy the quarterbacks, and you have a quarterback, a receiver, a tight end, or an athlete, and like a tackle, all 4 of them are going to bounce off each other. However, if you don't have it for offensive linemen, if you don't have it for tight ends and receivers, only the quarterback's going to get the big buff. The other 3 are going to get the regular buffs. So for starters, that is like one small negative to this package, this tier, is if you're going to go down that path of doing crazy visits, which again, I don't recommend, but I'll show you why a bit later in the video, you have to buy tier 1 for everything, specifically offense and defense. Because you don't want to have this awkward situations where one position or one player is getting a crazy buff and then the other 3 or 2 are kind of left to dry. So you got to kind of commit. If you're going to buy tier 1, you got to buy tier 1 everywhere. Next, the hospitality. Visits have a bigger impact on the player. From what I have seen, this is largely dependent on everything. So for example, if you don't have any pipelines and you don't have any perks to kind of compensate for you not having pipelines, this perk's not going to help you that much. Right? This perk kind of bounces off of everything else, which makes sense because it is, a hybrid recruiting tree. So if you have lasting impressions, if you have elite recruiter, if you have the other perks that, you would assume stack with this, they all kind of collectively work together to give you a big buff. But if you're just doing it by yourself and nothing else, there's no elite recruiter, there's no lasting impressions, you don't have a good pipeline, and there's nothing else benefiting you, it doesn't really benefit you much. Like a great example I can give you is if you want to get a corner from Georgia, let's say there's a 5-star gem corner from Georgia and Georgia's going hard after him, and you're in a school that has a 2 or a 1-star pipeline in Georgia and you really want that cornerback, even if you hyper boost the corner and you give him a bunch of complimentary visits, you will shoot up the board, don't get me wrong, but Georgia's going to eventually get a recruiting battle out of you, and then Georgia's going to win. Because Georgia has more perks than you, Georgia has a better pipeline than you. So it's not like a one-stop fix-all kind of thing where you can just completely ignore the other parts of your coach as long as you have tier 1 and tier 2 for your stuff. Albeit, it's great to have it, right? It's not going to hurt you to get it, but the main issue I have specifically with these 2 perks is I don't really use a lot of visits in general because I get all my recruits by week 2 or week 3 anyways. So yeah, I guess I could schedule a home game in, I think, week 1 or week 2, but for me, most of my recruiting is done by week 4 or week 5. So I don't get a large benefit from this, especially if you're using my coach build in episode 1. And so for me, personally, tier 1 and tier 2, I don't ever use. Now, if you're a big visit person, I know I had someone in my chat yesterday, shout out you, who was talking about how, like, this is really OP with more the merrier, and I see where you're going with that, right? Getting 4 defensive players and 4 offensive players, you know, in one singular week is crazy, and that would synergize well. But like I've mentioned, if I want someone, I can just get them. So I'm not, and if you want to see, I'll go ahead and, like, show footage of me doing it right now. So in my Rice rebuild dynasty, I did live on stream. The streams are still up. If you're curious how I did this, what the coach build is, stuff like that. But here's the board. I've already made it. Going to cut all that boring part out of the video. Here you go. And I'm just going to show you just how fast I could recruit players when you have the other perks without ever sending an actual visit. Which, again, kind of goes back to my point of, like, you have to use the perk, obviously, if you're going to buy it. But if you're not going to use it, it defeats the entire purpose. So yeah, we're one from week 0 to week 1. I have done nothing. As you can see, massive leads already after 1 week. Got locked out of a few people. Oopsie daisy. Misclick of the controller. Who cares? Oh well, we're just going to go ahead and pretend like we didn't want the guy anyways, because we actually didn't, because that guy sucks. I got 50 hours. I'll just slap it on here because why not? I don't really know. But as you can see, we're first for pretty much everybody we want, aside from 2 people. Now we're going to advance 1 more week. And by the way, I have 50 hours on everybody. I could go super overkill and slap 75 on the players I want and get them even quicker. I'm not doing that strictly because I'm showing you what it does with the normal amount of hours. And as you can see, for this 5-star right tackle who's also from Texas, I can now hard sell. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, Beastly, how can you hard sell? You only have 2 things, which I know is pro potential and I know playing time. But if you remember that calculator I referenced, you know, in my recruiting video, I'm going to go plug in this stuff to the calculator and it's going to give me a rough percentage about how close I am. And I'm going to go see that real quick. So I don't really think you guys need to see all that. I just kind of typed the stuff into the calculator. More or less, this person has a 100% chance to be clocked in. I scroll down the board a little further to this strong safety. It's exactly a 50-50 coin flip between these 2, so I figured one is mine as well. Let's go ahead and do the double soft sell cheese for the recruiting video. Why not? This has I think a 78% chance to be hometown hero, so we're going to go ahead and drop that real quick. And this receiver, I believe, is 100% chance of getting, what is this, gamer. So we're in week what? Week 1 or 2? What are we in? We're in week 2, and we have 4 players in their top 5 already. And after hitting the hard sell for this week, as you will see, bada bing, bada boom. 2-0, nice. Look at this right tackle. We got the hard sell right correct. So as you can see, we've simmed 3 weeks. He's about to be in his top 3 already, and SMU, TCU, and Pitt are nowhere near me. If I put the extra 15 or so hours into this guy, I would have recruited him like literally a week ago. We would have been into his top 3 a week ago, and this week would have been the recruit. This is what I mean by, like, visits are kind of unnecessary, especially when you have an established school. Other examples, who else did we do stuff for? I don't exactly remember their names. Another example, Jesus Christ, look at the size of the bar. So keep in mind, this was a double soft sell cheese, which means I didn't get any, I got no punishments for messing up the soft sell, but I got all the rewards for getting the right soft sell. And as you can see, just like that right tackle, I am also about to get him into his top 3, meaning if I would have dumped the 25 extra hours into him, I could have got him a week earlier. And as you can see, oh, well, Beastly, it's not fair because you're using a tier 5 pipeline in Texas with Rice. This guy literally has no pipeline. He will be mine next week. And pretty much, who was the other? And I believe this athlete was the other one. Yeah, we got the cell right. Look at the giant bar jump. And again, by 25 hours, like, this is what I'm talking about. How by week 3, we're in week 3, yeah. In week 3, I have a vast majority of my players either safely in my control or they're already mine. Now, for this, again, for this little example, I hindered myself. I capped myself at 50 hours per player. If I would have dumped the max, which for some of them was 75, some were 65, I would have got them by now. So this is what I mean in the strategist tree, where the visits are kind of unnecessary, especially after a certain point, because you don't, by the time they even get to a visit or a chance to need the visit, they're already yours. So that's what I mean when I say this, later on in the video. So I just showed you why tier 1 and tier 2 is not very good, especially after a certain point in the dynasty. You will be recruiting whoever you want, whenever you want by week 3, 4, or 5. So you don't really need visits for that. Next, we're going to cover tier 3. Tier 3, in my opinion, is also very overglazed, very overhyped, and not really necessary. And here's why. And I probably should have stayed on my Rice save file just to show you this better. But even with UMass, I can show you right now, and it kind of is the same thing. Mind you, I've not played this UMass file. I literally just force sim my games. So why some random things are Fs and whatnot, it's out of my control. But as you can see, the longer you play in a dynasty, the more perks you get, the more established you get, the more you win, the more you do stuff, yada, 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 the better you get. And you might say, well, Beastly, what is the point of showing us this? So you have A, brand exposure, A, championship contender, A's across the board. You got F's here, which I can't, that'll get fixed eventually. But, most of the stuff you get once when you start winning becomes at least a B+ or an A. That's kind of why I say it's kind of redundant to have the Dealbreaker one. I understand the Dealbreaker applies to players on your team and the players you recruit. But once when you become a Giga Squad, there's only going to be one Dealbreaker that fucks you. That Dealbreaker is playing time. And you can't get around that Dealbreaker. That Dealbreaker, you're either perfectly fine or you're at an F. And spoiler alert, even if you stack all 3 of your OC, your DC, and your coach, it's not going to lower the threshold enough to stop someone from transferring out with F playing time. It won't. So, on paper, lowering the Dealbreaker sounds amazing. In practice, once when you're a good school, you have A's everywhere anyways. So no one's going to lock me out of pro potential because I have an A+ there for everything. No one's going to lock me out who's a championship contender because I'm an A+ there. And you kind of get my point. Once when you're in the end game, you have A+ everything. So no one's going to really be locking you out again except for playing time, but that's the only exception. And that one exception doesn't even get any benefit from this. Furthermore, the other time these perks don't really get any value is early game. Because you don't have anything worth keeping, right? Like, when you have bad players, their Dealbreakers are like C's and like low B's, which is not that hard to maintain. So this perk doesn't really help you early game and late game at all. It's pretty much an exclusive mid-game perk, and that's kind of what I would reflect all of the perk of Strategist, is that Strategist doesn't really get any value for you until you're in that mid-transition. And by mid-transition, I mean, when you're a 0 or 1, 1.5 star school, these perks aren't going to help you much. If you're a 4 or 5 star program, these perks aren't going to help you much. Where these perks are going to be very valuable is that transition phase from a tier, a 2 star to a 3 star, that in-between phase. That is going to be awesome here because you're going to have good Dealbreakers, but not the best Dealbreakers. So, that'll help you there. You'll have, decent perks, but not the best perks. You'll have decent pipelines, not the best pipelines, stuff like that. And then lastly, with this perk, it comes Mind Reader. Now, Mind Reader annoys the hell out of me. And shout out to my chat, shout out to the comments. Unfortunately, I didn't read and really remember any of this information beforehand, but I was not aware prior to doing my off video testing that you cannot see a dev trait on the second scout. So I literally sat there for like 400 or 500 recruits, double clicking the button, triple clicking the button, being like, hey, why am I not seeing their dev trait? it says increased chance to learn dev trait of a QB while scouting. What that should say is the first time you scout a prospect, you have a chance to see the dev trait. So EA, I really wish you would fix the wording of this, because my dumbass was sitting there spamming the A button and like, why is it not working? Huh? Why? That's why. But seeing a dev trait or two can be monumental, Beastly. I hear you typing. I have to see dev traits in the game to get good players. I can't function without seeing a dev trait. Well, as I mentioned in several videos, and I mentioned in my streams all the time, we're going to go and see if we can find a position here that has a lot of players in it. Ooh, perfect. 5-star wide receivers. Not every 5-star is guaranteed to be good. Actually, while I'm here, might as well prep the entire board, because, spoiler alert, I will be doing all of the mind reader testing live, minus the boring parts that you guys don't need to see like right now. So I'm going to go make the board and be right back. Okay, so I have the board made. We will be doing this live. I'll be jotting down my information as I go. So if you see a random cut here and there in the video, that's more or less why. So going back to the point I mentioned earlier, do you see how for this 5-star receiver, he needs brand exposure? Without my perk reducing it, it would be originally a B+, but I have an A-. So like the threshold's not going to help me. Right, him lowering it to a C is not going to help me. Same thing with this guy. B+ coach prestige, I have an A. Not going to help me. 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 You guys, I can just sit here and do this for every single prospect. You get the point, though. None of these are going to... Probably the closest we got is this guy's procs to home. That would be a B-, but I already have a B-, so it wouldn't lock me out anyways. But that's why, I mean, especially end game, you already have A+ everything, so it's not going to really benefit you that much as you think it will, I promise. But I am going to go scout everybody and come back with my numbers. So to make this video a little more clean for you guys to watch on your end, I went ahead and scouted everybody, and as you can see, I have them moved to the top of the board of the dev traits that got revealed. Out of 35 wide receivers, we only had 7 players have their dev trait get revealed, which is really bad. That is 7 out of 35. Real quick, where's my phone? Where's the math on that? That is a 20% rate at triggering. Now I'm gonna do more tests to get more data, but the fact that an average, let's just be honest here. How often on average do you, whenever you're scouting for your dynasties, have 35 receivers on your board? Right? I'm just gonna take a guess even, that most people, if you're trying to like load up on a specific position, like corner or safety or receiver, you probably have at most like probably 4 to like 8 of them. So if you keep that math, if only 20 to 30% of the time you're gonna have the dev trait revealed, and you're only getting 4 to 8 players at that position period, that's like 1, maybe 2 people a cycle for a position group will have their dev trait revealed. And if you look at the dev traits, almost all of them were self-explanatory, meaning you don't need the game to tell you they suck. You can just do that yourself. Great example, this gadget wide receiver is a busted gem, which I always advise people not to go after, because 9 times out of 10, it's an impact dev or normal player. And I know there's the people in the comments who are like, well, actually, I had this 1-star dev that one time out of the thousands of seasons I've done. The odds, mathematically speaking, are far more probable to be a normal dev or an impact dev than to ever be a star dev. So why would I ever include in these videos with the calculations the random outlier? Right? You could do that for hundreds of red gems and find like 1 or 2. I'm not going to just prepare that, oh my god, no. Most of the time it's normal or impact, so I'm going to treat it accordingly. Again, red bust, why would you chase this guy anyways? But, oh well. We're going to save the exception towards the end. Next, the next receiver, as you can see, well, Beastly, there's no red gem here. You can clearly tell he sucks because he's 85 speed. He's a 4-star with far below average speed, right? The bare minimum for a 4-star contested specialist should be like 88 to like 89 speed. You're pushing it going below 87, right? 87, 86, 85, you're pushing it. So of course this guy was going to be normal dev. He looks like a normal dev bum. Like, I don't need a perk to tell me this guy's a bot. I can just look at his stats and it'll do that for me. Another example is you can, see where this is going. I don't need the red gem in the top left corner to tell me this guy's an NPC that's going to, get sent to the Shadow Realm. He's 83 fucking speed for a receiver. No one should ever go near him with a 10-foot pole. Like, ever. This dude sucks. I don't care if there's a red gem there. I know he sucks. Next, we have this guy, who I will admit, Beastly, the last couple have been slow. Why is this guy slow? So, essentially, elusive route runners are very different to, like, contested specialists and speedsters. Not every archetype has the same speed. So, like, for example, most elusive route runners or just pure route runners, most of the time, they have lower base speed to begin with, right? A slow speedster receiver would be anybody who's lower than 91 speed. A slow contested specialist would be someone who's like slower than 87, 86 speed. Whereas a slow route runner is like 85, 86 speed. That's like their normal speed. If you pay attention to the route runners in your, recruiting cycles moving forward, you will find a vast majority of the people that have route running in their archetype aren't fast to begin with. And again, of course, I'm going to get these comments. Yes, there are outliers. Yes, you can find a 97 speed route runner. There is RNG. There is, there's randomization here. But generally speaking, route runners are a slower archetype because they're not meant to be fast. They're meant to be good at, you guessed it, running routes. So even though this guy is a star dev, which is sick, I still wouldn't have honestly cared. I would have probably, now that I'm looking like harder at this guy, even though his speed is not what I would like it to be, I would much prefer him to have like 87, 88 speed compared to 85. He is 6'2". He's not short. He's a $183. He's not super frail, and he has 92 agility, which is pretty high, along with 80, mid 80 or low 80s in all of the route runnings and all the catchings, besides regular catch. He's not bad. I would assume his skill caps are probably going to be interesting. Now, I'm not going to scout these people. I don't have that much time in my day to do all this, but I would assume he's probably star dev with bad caps. That's what I would assume. Because, typically the dev trait equals the skill caps, but not always. So, this is the one exception, or two exceptions I would give. This guy being normal dev, again, like I said, you don't really want to be pushing anything lower than 87, 86, 85 speed for contested specialist. I've seen, on average, especially for a 5-star, this guy's a 5-star. Even if this was a 4-star wide receiver, I'd be like, eh. But he's a 5-star. Most 5-star contested specialists should have at least 90, 91, 92 speed. They should be much faster. So again, I don't need the game to tell me this guy's a bum. I can just look at his stats and tell that he's a bum. This gentleman, as you can see, route artist, going back to the whole route runners being slow, he has 87 speed, which is a little faster than the other receiver at 85, but he's still slow. Like, 87 speed is what I would consider to be the average speed for most route runners. 87, 86, somewhere around that ballpark. And you can kind of tell he's 87, 86 speed because he's impact dev. Again, not saying that these players can't develop. I have produced 99 overall normal dev players, impact dev players, elite devs, and star dev. You can do it. It's just, by and large, you want the stars, you want the elites, because most of the time, they have the best skill caps. Not always, but most of the time. Now, let's get to the other exception I just saw. Well, Beastly. Beastly, this guy is an elite dev. He's insane. There's no green gem. This would be another one I would give you. Right? I wouldn't have chased him personally, given the fact that he is sub 90 speed, but he is the best dev trait in the game. So depending on how you want to look at this, you either are going to get insanely lucky and get elite dev players and star dev players revealed to you at a position you do need, and you can get them. Or, like I just showed you, the perk reveals a bunch of impact and normal dev players who already look impact and normal dev. And you'll see, like, moving forward, I can show you other examples where it didn't trigger, and I would bet a ton of money I know their dev trait. Good example. Remember how I told you that route artists on average are slower with their base speed on average? This guy is 92 speed. He's basically as fast as a speedster with basically elite route running. As you can see, 90 medium, right? Elite route running, elite speed, and oh, by the way, he has 88 spectacular catch. This receiver has pretty much every single stat of every other archetype. He's as fast as speedsters, has the route running, catch or route running abilities as a route runner, and can catch incredibly well. I don't need the game to tell me he's elite dev to know he's elite dev. I don't need that. I can do it with my own eyes. And vice versa. This guy right here, I can tell you is probably a normal dev or impact dev, even without the gem popping up in the top left corner. Yeah, he hits the bare minimum for speed, but the rest of his stuff is, yeah, he can catch. Like, he wouldn't be a bad tight end. He's faster than most tight ends anyways, and he can catch. But that deep route running sucks. 77 deep route running is just terrible. And because he has high awareness at 73, his base overall is going to be kind of high. But that's because it's getting inflated by awareness. Like, most of people's awareness, especially for 4 and 5-star players, should be somewhere in the 50s or 60s. What you want to have is high base stats and low awareness, and not everything else. He has average base stats and high awareness, which is going to inflate that overall pretty well. So again, I don't need the game to tell me who's good and who's not. Another example of an elite/star dev player is this 5-star. He has 94 speed. He's a speedster who's very fast, which is very rare in this game. They've nerfed speedsters to the ground. Whole different video for a whole different day. But either way, this guy is special. I don't need the game to tell me his dev trait. On average, most speedsters, especially 5-star speedsters, have 91 or 92 speed. So if you see someone with 93 or 94 speed as a 5-star or even a 4-star, they're special. So yeah, the perk triggered a few times, but most of the time, again, you can see it with your own eyes. I don't need this green gem to tell me this guy is special. Again, he's a route runner. He's a physical route runner. He's supposed to be slow. He's 91 speed. Right? I don't need the gem. If you just pay attention to the average of stats, especially of a specific archetype, especially of a specific, group, whether it's 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, whatever, you can see it. Now, some of them are really obvious, right? Speed for receiver, or throw power for quarterback, or man coverage for corners. There's certain, zone or, other end zone, or, finesse move for defensive linemen. You get the point, though. You don't need the gems to tell you who's good. You don't need the perk to tell you who's good either. You can do that yourself. With a little bit of, trial and error, with a little bit of effort, I promise you, you can do. Shout out NDR for subscribing. I was supposed to turn it off mid-video. LOL. You know what? For the comment section of the day, everyone type NDR down below. Hashtag NDR down below for the comment section of the day. That way I know you actually watched this far into the video. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Shout out you, NDR. I appreciate you, brother. And back to the video. While I'm still on the subject, here's an example of what I mean. This guy's a 4-star speedster. Yeah, he's a red gem, which tells me not to go, within 10 feet of him. But I don't, again, need the gem because he has 89 speed. This dude is slow for a speedster. His entire gimmick is supposed to be fast, and he sucks. Like, I'm telling you guys. Also, this guy's name's Tyrone Cheek. Oh my, that is hilarious. Again, another example. Elusive route runner, 86 speed. Right, these guys are supposed to be slow. 93 speed, he's pretty good. 85 speed, contested specialist, he's probably normal dev or impact dev. It's just, you can see, if you sit down, again, I don't need a gem to tell me this guy's fast. This 93 speed 4-star is faster than that other 5-star speedster. They're both speedsters. They're both supposed to be fast, but one is objectively much faster than the other. So that is what I mean by, like, the perk, one, I think triggers a little too rarely to be consistently relied upon. I think you are far ballparking it. Just from my experience, and again, you can fact check me on my streams. I stream every day, 6:30 CST, show up to the streams. I'm doing rebuilds all the time. You can fact check me on my streams. I don't have a hard time getting 10 plus elite dev players a cycle. If you include star dev and elite dev prospects, I can get, hell, I think my best in one class was like 22 or 23. I also send about 15 to 30 people into the league every single year, so I have to constantly be recruiting very well. Otherwise, I can't offset how many players I'm losing every single year. So I can assure you, do I miss elite devs? I'm sure I do. I'm sure I'm a human. I'm not perfect. I'm well aware. I do probably miss elite devs and star devs. I do. Statistically, I know I am. But if I'm getting an 80 to 85% hit rate off just looking at their stats, I would much prefer doing it my way than doing it the mind reader way, which is just crossing my fingers and hoping to God the perk triggers on the position. So yeah, we're going to move on to different positions. And I guess next we'll do quarterbacks. Why not? And hopefully we get more than 7 quarterbacks trigger, because 7 out of 35 was abysmal. Okay, so I got done with the quarterbacks. The receivers, I had 7 out of 35, which made a 20% hit rate. And now for quarterbacks, I have 9 out of 35, which gave me a 26 rounding up hit rate, which is really bad. Have I mentioned how bad that is? Now, albeit it's better than Architect, but that's really bad. And just like receiver, as you're going to hear, you know, the dev traits that got revealed, we did hit on a few dev traits. A few of them were fire. But again, if you're recruiting quarterbacks, how often do you have 35 quarterbacks on your board, right? Assuming you have a hit rate of approximately 20 to 30%, again, within a, you know, margin of human error, of course, some randomness is obviously going to be thrown in there. Most people, I would say, would probably have 4 to like 6 quarterbacks on their board. So if it's only hitting at a 20 to 30% rate, that means 1 or 2 of the 6 are going to actually pop, assuming it pops at all. You could go 0 for 6 and never get any of them to pop up. So again, the rate's kind of bad, but we'll review what I got. This quarterback, this dual threat 4-star, is impact dev, and it's really obvious why he's normal / impact dev. His throw power is really bad. For dual threats, they have really 2 obvious outlier stats that you always check for, that being high throw power, high speed. The rest of their stats can greatly vary all across the board, but generally speaking, most good dual threats, whether they're 3 stars, 4 stars, or 5 stars, will generally always have really good speed and throw power. This guy just has speed, so you can pretty much tell with even the thing, he's normal / impact dev. This gentleman kind of goes hand in hand with the previous guy I just showed you. 93 throw power, basically. Oh my god, that's amazing, that's insane. He must be elite. Nope, he's normal dev, because why? He has sub 80 speed. He's a dual threat quarterback that can't run away from people. He's basically a pocket passing quarterback with extra steps. Very obviously normal dev. Another very obviously normal dev, whether they're dual threats, whether they're backfield creators, or whether they're pure runners. Generally, those 3 archetypes will have speed as one of their main things. Obviously, the degree of the speed does differ, right? Pure runners will always be typically, on average, faster than the other 2. But again, with outliers and stats and stuff like that, you can have a great amount of variation there. Dude, sub 80 speed for a 4-star, really bad. Normal dev, not surprised. Another person that's not very surprising is pocket passing quarterback. This guy is normal dev. Why is he normal dev, Beastly? With pocket passing quarterbacks, again, just like the other quarterbacks, speed, throw power, but normally the elite / star dev quarterbacks, even if they're pocket passing quarterbacks, will have at least 80 speed, at least. But his kind of tell is that he's low throw power, right? For a 4-star and a 5-star pocket passing quarterback, you got to have at least 93, right? 94, 95. You have to have mid to high 90s throw power. 90 throw power is just not cutting it, whether you're a 4-star or a 5-star. So he's very obviously normal dev. So far, of the 9 triggers, 4 of them have been incredibly obvious. So I don't even want to count these 4 as like helping you, because you shouldn't need the game to tell you these guys suck, when very clearly you could tell they suck by their just abilities. Next, gentleman. Oh, I thought his name was LeBron. It is LeBorn. I am cross-eyed. Again, in the same vein as the other guy, as you can see, well, this guy has higher throw power, yes, but he's also a 4-star, and his break sack is 58, which is abysmal. His speed is also 77. So even though he's not supposed to be fast as a pocket passing quarterback, his throw power is still within the range of average. 90, 91, 92, that is average. You are pretty much looking for especially for a pocket passing, 93 or above. So again, this guy, 5 quarterbacks in, doesn't really help you. This gentleman, I would put him in the category of it helped me. I would have 1000% passed on this guy. His speed, not too crazy, being 80, that's slightly above pocket passing quarterback. His throw power being 86, again, not that impressive. To me, he doesn't look very impressive, so I would have skipped him. So there's one time where the perk would have beat me, but again, I would have skipped the other 5, so congratulations, the game beat me once. This next quarterback is, again, very obviously elite/star dev. As you can see, oh, they're the same archetype. Perfect. They're the same archetype, so I can actually show you this. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So you see how this guy is elite dev with 86 throw power? This guy is 91 throw power. That is significantly above average, especially for a backfield creator. Right? Most 4-star backfield creators have somewhere between like 86 to like 88, 89 throw power. 5 stars have pretty similar. Theirs are more like 88 to like 90. So the fact he's above average in throw power is the green flag you need to go after the guy. So even this guy being elite, I would have, again, even if there wasn't a gem in the top right corner, I still would have went after him. That's above average throw power. That's really high. And this guy being normal dev, kind of in the same vein as the other normal devs, he has abysmally bad throw power at 83 and abysmally bad speed at 78. Like, I didn't need help seeing this guy. And then lastly, this guy is elite dev. And again, I didn't need help because if you remember earlier, why is this guy elite dev? He has 94 throw power. That is significantly above average. So of the 9 quarterbacks, I could have told you 8 of their dev traits, which means the game technically beat me once. So just like I said with the receivers, I have a much higher hit rate than the perk, which is why I always advise people in my streams and in the comments on my videos, if you just pay attention to their stats, you don't need to cross your fingers and pray or, you know, go slaughter some poor animal outside and sacrifice its blood to the gods or what have you. You don't have to do any of that extracurricular nonsense. Just look at their stats. It's that simple. Wow, that was so shocking. So I just did that for the entire CB room, and I'm not going to lie to you, out of that 35, I don't think we got our first hit on a dev trait until like 15 or 20 corners in. Towards the end, it like caught incredibly hot, but we went an unbelievably long time without getting a single dev trait. But the entire list is done. Out of 35, it triggered 8 total times, which means it triggered 23%. So if you're keeping track, it's done 20%, 23%, and 26%, which means at the pace it's currently going, again, I'm going to keep going. But if I just stop the sample size here of 3 sets of 35, that's well over 100 attempts, and it's somewhere in the mid-20s, which is just really bad. I was told this perk has a hit rate of like 40 to 50%. No, it does not. I have yet to even, again, I'll keep going. I could just have 3 bad, very unlucky tests, but back to back to back numbers that all kind of reflect the same stuff. But like I did for the quarterbacks and the receivers, I am very good at DBs. DBs, I would probably put in the same category as I am with quarterbacks as I am with DBs. I recruit elite safeties, elite corners all the time in my streams and stuff, so this is right up my alley. First person, Isaiah, normal dev corner, makes complete sense. There is physically nothing here special about him. He has average speed, average zone, average man, average press. He's pretty much average everywhere. So I would not have chased this guy. And sure enough, I would be correct because he's normal dev. This guy, again, same thing. They're both field corners. They're both slow. They're both very average, mediocre at pretty much everything. They're both normal dev. Not a big shocker there. This guy is a red gem, so I wouldn't have chased them anyways. But even if the red gem wasn't there, he is below average man coverage, especially for a boundary corner, and sub 90 speed, which is also really bad. I like the 66 tackling for a corner. It's not bad, but he is below average man and below average speed. So the moment I saw that, I would have pulled off anyways. But if I kept going and saw the red gem, I would have really pulled off. Then here's finally a corner that looks decent on paper, and he's also normal dev. So unlike the other 3 boundary / field corners you guys have seen, they all been sub 90 speed. This is the first guy that's been over 90 speed. But for me, that's not really enough. The corners I like to go after typically always end up being north of 92 or 93 speed. Pretty much regardless of their archetype, whether it's zone, bump and run, boundary, field, whatever. Normally the sweet spot's 92. So this guy would have been 1 tick under that sweet spot. And again, you look at the man, look at the zone, very low 70s. He has some good mental abilities, so for a normal dev player, he probably has some good skill caps. So he'd probably make for like a decent safety you can develop for like a couple of years. But I wouldn't have chased him anyways, so I would have been 4 for 4 with this cycle. This corner, going back to the other example, this guy being normal dev, this guy being elite, what's the difference here? I'll tell you the difference. First of all, look at the tackle rating. This corner, this zone corner, has 70 tackle. That's 5 better than the other guy. That is for a corner, having 70 plus tackling is insane. Furthermore, he's a 4-star, not a 5-star. So for his speed, again, should be somewhere in that 91, 92 range, give or take. But zone corners typically do end up being slower than the other corners. So for him, or for his archetype, I would have probably have stopped around 91, so right where he hit. But the big sign, the green flag, if you will, that he's special, acceleration, very high, mid-90s, like the other gentleman was, very high. His awareness in the 70s, very high. His zone coverage is also almost 80. If he was a 5-star, I would probably be willing to bet his base zone would have been like 81, 82. So if you see receivers or corners, if you see corners with 92, 93, 94 speed, pretty much good chance they have an insane dev trait. If you see a man corner with high 70s or low 80s man, he's probably special. If you see a corner with, again, high 70s, low 80s zone, if he's a zone corner, he's probably special. And sure enough, I would have chased this guy, and sure enough, I would have had an elite dev player. Impact dev, bump and run. This is probably the easiest archetype to scout, whether it's a 3, 4, or 5-star. This dude's slow as hell, even for a 3-star, wouldn't have chased, and he's impact dev. So go figure. Again, red gem, wouldn't have chased anyways, but if I did, slow as hell, 86 speed, wouldn't have chased. And then again, boundary corner, slow as hell, 87 speed, wouldn't have chased. So the last 2 times I've done this test, the perk has beat me once. And I admit, I wouldn't have gone after that receiver and that quarterback. There is nothing here I would have, the one corner I would have chased here would have been the elite dev. So I basically had a higher hit rate than the perk did this cycle. Which again, pull up to the streams. If you don't believe me, I promise you, I got footage to back up what I'm saying. I promise you. I'm probably going to do this one more time for defensive linemen. And, no, I lied. I'll do this for defensive linemen and linebackers, and we'll wrap up the video. We finally had a good cycle. Finally. This took 4 positions deep, but rather us getting a couple, we actually got 10 this go around, which that's about 30%. Technically, it's like 28 point something. I round up to 29, but it's almost a 30% chance. That was actually pretty clean. Now let's go over the players that did, show us. Let's go over who I would have skipped and who I would have went after. 4-star speed rusher with 86 speed. I would have 100% chased this guy. You're looking for 86, 87, basically mid to high 80s for a speed rusher in finesse move, and about 80 plus speed, considering the fact that this guy is probably faster than most of the 5-stars that are in this class. For a 4-star, he has above average speed, above average finesse move, would have chased, and would have got a star dev DNW. This gentleman, normal dev, wow, he is 85. Ooh, I would have moved this. I would have went after this dude and moved him to DT, just because he, like, most edge setters are heavy enough so you can slide them into D tackles, and they aren't going to get punished for being too small. I would have actually chased this guy, and I don't think I would have regretted that. But I guess after, like, further evaluation, though, he has 68 power move, which is really bad. Yeah, he has great size at 250, great height, 6'3". He has great block shedding at 85. His strength is a bit lackluster, not gonna lie. His strength's a bit low, his power move is very low. Yeah, no, I guess after... I kind of got excited for the speed. Or not for the speed, for the block shedding. But, yeah, no, that makes sense. You would have liked that strength to be like high 80s, low 90s. You would have liked that power move to be like 71, 70, like, low 70s. But, oh well. This gentleman is impact dev. Really easy. He's a power rusher. He's supposed to be good at power moves. He is barely better at power moves than hitting people with hit power. He's very obvious. That's 80 power move, very low. Makes sense. Would have skipped. Pure power. Would have skipped just because, Jesus Christ, you're slow with 65 speed. But also pure power, you need to have a lot of strength, a lot of hit power, and power moves. He is okay strength at 87, but like only 83 hit power and only 80 power moves. Like, that's pretty bad. So I would have skipped you anyways. Oh, here's like a much better example of what I was referring to earlier about the other edge setter that I would have like looked at. So this gentleman, this is why I typically also go after edge setters and move them to D tackle, because they're just faster D tackles. Because there's no difference in 3-4 and 4-3 and all that stuff in the game anymore. Now it's just edge and linebacker. So that's whole can of worms by itself. This gentleman, he's a bit small though at 227. I wouldn't immediately start him at D tackle. I would probably let him sit the bench for a year or two. So his redshirt sophomore year or junior, he'd probably play DT for me. But yeah, he's 6'4", good height. 227, a bit light, but you can add 4 or 5 pounds a year, so he can eventually get the weight. Good shed, good speed, good hit power, decent strength. 85 strength is not great, but not terrible. This, especially for a 4-star. This guy is not bad. 80, around, mid to high 80s is kind of the green flag there for that. This guy is pretty low, but again, he's a 4-star, so. For a 5-star, you would expect like 87, 88 block shed. For a 4-star, probably like 82 to like 84. But either way, oh, really good tackling, 84 tackling, just there you go. Star dev, would have chased, would have got that guy. Anyways, power rusher, again, this is not rocket science. He's supposed to be good at power moves, he's a power rusher, and he sucks. That just makes sense. It's not that hard. Again, normal power rusher, what's his power moves? 80 power moves, that's terrible. Like, would have skipped, would have been fine. Power rusher, 82 power moves, not the best block shedding, not the best speed, honestly, not the best anywhere. I would have 100% skipped this. Yeah, I would have 1000% skipped this. So it got me here. There's one. There's one this cycle it got me. This gentleman is impact dev, 88 strength, pretty good, 80 power move, pretty good, 81 speed, pretty good. Yeah, I would have went after this dude. I bet you he's an impact dev player with like no skill caps. I bet you he's insane. That is crazy. He has more strength than I'm pretty sure every other D lineman up to this point. And he's a power rusher, not a pure power, which is just funny how that works. Another impact edge setter. Again, god-awful finesse moves. Just pretty much average, low speed, 73. I would have skipped him, would have been impact dev. So for the D lineman, so out of the 10 prospects, I within a reasonable margin of error would have guessed 8 of the 10. These two, I think the 2 star devs did get me. But either way, there was 1 quarterback, 1 receiver, and 1 corner, and now there's 2 DNs. So out of the, what is that? What is 35 times 4 real quick, Beastly? So out of the 140 players I've scouted so far, only 4 have gotten me. So I would definitely say my hit rate is far higher than the game's. Just saying. But we got one last position group to go over, which is linebackers, and then we can wrap it all up. So this was the exact same number we had, ironically enough, for the quarterbacks. We had 9 out of the possible 35 that got selected, which is not good. So if we're going to do the collective math, which I probably should have done before I edited, but, post-edit me will be doing a lot of work for this video. Not current me, though. Future me will. So, future me, edit out this pause while I do the big math. So, in this one video, I did 175 players, and the hit rate was 43 procced out of 175, which makes the math exactly 24 point something percent, but I'm going to round up to be nice at a nice clean 25%, which is kind of what I thought this was going to be. I knew all the people who were telling me 40, 50% was way too high, and all the people who were telling me it was like, Architect, where it's like a 10 to 15%. I knew that wasn't going to be accurate. But given the fact I did this about 200 to 300 times before the video, just to get an idea how like everything worked, my numbers for those, off video recordings was, again, ballparking it high 20s, and here we got 25%. So I think with a reasonable margin of error, I can tell you that plus or minus 2%, it's probably 25 to 30%, 20%. You know what? Let's be more generous here. 20 to 30% of the time, you will, in fact, get it to trigger. But here's the issue that I have with this perk, and why I just don't think it's that good. Most of the players in this video I've shown you that it triggered, I didn't need the game to tell me they were a bum to tell me they were a bum. I could do that myself. A great example was this 5-star Will linebacker you can see here. He's a star dev, without the green gem, I could have told you he's special because he's 88 speed, which is just insanely fast for a linebacker in this game. As you'll see when I scroll down this list, most of these linebackers, whether they're a Will, Sam, or a Mike, have between like 78 and like 81, 82 speed. So the fact that he's 88 speed is insane. That is insane. So I didn't need the green gem to tell me he's special. So I would have chased this guy anyways, and I would have been correct. This guy, 80 speed, very slow. Decent zone coverage, impact dev, he's just slightly above average, and you could tell he's average speed, average tackle, average hit power, average pursuit, just nothing screaming off the board there for him. And same thing with this guy, what was that, Jess? Not even Jesse, Jess McKee. What are the, okay. Average, actually below average tackling, below average hit power, average speed, just a bunch of mid, and sure enough, he's normal dev, so I wouldn't chase him anyways. This gentleman, normal dev, 83 speed. It's above average for speed, but the hit power is bad. You know, that's kind of it. For like a user, he's 6 foot. Never mind, he's a midget. I was gonna say maybe for a user he'd be good, but no, he's 6 foot. You would like your user to be like 6'3", 6'4". That's, yeah. Aside from speed, this dude got nothing going for me. His high awareness, which is gonna inflate his overall. Not too surprising. Again, another linebacker here, 81 speed, 81 hit power. At least this linebacker hits the low 80s. But, you know, you want something that impresses you, like 85, 88 hit power, or like 88 tackling, or like 81 zone coverage. Just something special or unique, or just not average, please. And this guy is average. I wouldn't have went after him anyways. This gentleman has star. Very obvious tell that he's a good player. Gonna go ahead and let you look at the screen. That way you can ponder to yourself, well, basically, why is he a good player and this guy not a good player? Why is he so bad? Actually, it's the same thing you can see for this linebacker too, aside from speed. Why is Matthew Bohanian, why is this linebacker and this linebacker really good? Actually, wait, this linebacker, very good. Well, I've given you enough time to ponder. Their zone and man are both 70 plus. They have above average zone and above average man. That's, you would like Jaden Welsh to also have above average speed, but beggars can't be choosers. He has above average coverage stats, just like this guy has above average coverage stats. And if you compare him to the people below them, right, sub 70 man coverage, that's below average. Sub 70 below man coverage, below average. Sub 70 man, again, below average. Sub 70 man, you can see the trend here, below average. And then, you know, there you go. 70 man, 77 zone. He's a beast. And just like the guy below him, who's, I would say, much better, he's actually faster, he also has at least 70 man and at least 70 zone. So all three of the linebackers who have above average stats, I would have chased, I would have found anyways. So the perk did nothing for me here. This gentleman, again, below average man coverage, 67, wouldn't have chased, and I would have missed out on an impact dev linebacker. And then lastly, to walk off the video, 78 speed, drastically below average, wouldn't have chased. Obviously, there was a red gem, but even if the gem wasn't there, I still wouldn't have chased. So, out of 175 players, 4 of them would have, you know, I'll round up, I'll be nice. 5 of the players would have slipped through my fingers. 5. So, think to yourself, who has a higher hit rate? Beastly at just looking at the stats and going, those stats are pretty high. He probably has a good dev trait. Or a perk that triggers between 20 and 30% of the time. So yeah, that's basically going to be the yap session done with. I appreciate all you guys who stuck around this far into the video. Much love. And yeah, the final thoughts before I sign off here and go stream. So I appreciate y'all. I don't think Strategist is the worst perk in the game. I don't. I think Architect holds that mantle by a very wide margin. I don't think there will ever be in college football history, in CFB 27, in CFB 28, in CFB 29, I don't think they will ever make a perk as useless as Architect ever again. Next, Tactician's also really bad, but at least with Tactician, you could justify buying it because of the thresholds in this game, right? If you get a man coverage corner with 88 man, you can't upgrade him anymore. That sucks. But with that +2, you know, man coverage, that gets 90 man, and then he's a whole different player. So I can't justify ever buying Architect, but with Tactician, I can. There's actual applicable situations where you can get value out of that perk. Not all the time, but sometimes. With Strategist, there is almost no situation you could get value out this perk consistently. Again, tier 1, tier 2, as I've shown you with the rice, portion of this video, I can get whoever I want whenever I want, whether they're in pipeline or out of pipeline, by week 3, week 4, which defeats the entire purpose of even putting them on a visit. Then for tier 3, the deal breakers, I don't have deal breaker problems for anybody but playing time deal breakers, but that playing time deal breaker most of the time is going to be an F. And even with coordinators stacking and my head coach stacking, I'm not going to lower the threshold low enough to where that guy's not going to transfer out with an F playtime. So even the one deal breaker you would buy this perk for, it doesn't even fix that one problem. And then lastly, Mind Reader. You're crossing your fingers for a 20 to 30% chance that the game will tell you they're special. If you're super lazy and you don't want to like do what I do, which is learn averages, learn stats and do that nonsense, just look for green gems. Right? Statistically speaking, most green gems, you have a 1 in 3 chance of it being an impact dev. You have a 2 in 3 chance of that green gem being elite or star dev. So even if you don't want to go my method of just learning the stats, just go chase green gems. It's really not that hard. So whether you're using my strategy of learning the stats or you're just going green gem hunting, both of those I would say are objectively better than tier 4 Mind Reader. Now, yes, I always get these comments in every, in the Architect video, and I'm going to get these comments in this video. I already know. Well, of course it's bad. You're not using it with other things. It's like, dude, I don't need to use Talent Developer with other coordinators that have Talent Developer. I don't need that. I don't need other coordinators with Motivator. Motivator is a very strong perk by itself, right? The good perks in this game don't need other perks to help it stand up. The perks that do need assistance those perks have crutches. And the moment you take those crutches away, it's going to fall on its face. Right? Motivator is a good perk without extra motivator. Obviously, having more motivator is cool, but you don't need it. Same thing with Talent Dev. Talent Dev's great on its own, but if you had coordinators with Talent Dev, that's even better. Recruiter, it's great or Elite Recruiter, great by itself. Elite coordinators makes it even better, but you don't need to stack these. For Strategist, however, you kind of have to, which is the one saving grace at the very end of this video I'm going to give it. If I had to rank all the hybrid perks, Architect's the worst, Strategist is second, middle, and then Talent Developer is the best in the game. No objection. You shouldn't argue. If you think this perk's better than Talent Developer, go argue with a wall. But if you were doing a challenge where you could only stack perks with each other, Strategist high key is probably the best. Having 3 architects is still bad, right? The odds don't go up enough to really make it have any impact. So 3 architects is terrible. And you would think, well, Beastly, if Talent Developer is so good by itself, having 3 of them would make it OP, right? You're wrong. Because what happens is when you have 3 talent developers, and let's say you're doing what I'm doing, which is averaging 20 to 30 first round picks every single year, what happens, there's only so much XP your player can get. You can't bank XP. So once when you reach 255 tokens, you're done getting XP. So when you have 3 talent developers, it's actually going to hurt you because you're going to be earning too much XP. If you have any player with Star Dev or Elite Dev on your roster, they will pretty much instantly cap. The normal dev players and the impact dev players will love the triple talent dev stack. They would. But the other 2 people, which I would assume most of your rosters are filled with Star Dev and Elite Dev players, would it just be excessive overkill. So ironically enough, even though on its own, Strategist is the second worst or best, however you want to look at it, hybrid tree in the game, when you pair it with coordinators that also work with it, it's actually the best of the 3 hybrid trees. Because the triple stack on tier 1, 2, 3, and 4, because again, how it works, your coordinators are roughly speaking equal to maxed out, a maxed out OC and a maxed out DC is approximately the same thing as your head coach. So if I could, within a reasonable margin of error, say that the chance for Mind Reader to trigger is a 20 to 30% chance, if I have a coordinator that is also max strategist and a DC or OC and DC that have max strategist, within a reasonable margin of error, ballparking it, that's somewhere between, what would that be, 40 to 60% chance to trigger, which I think at that point, 40 to 60% chance, that's worth it. I think lowering the deal breaker requirement, again, when your end game does not matter, only mid game would it matter. Early game and mid game, or excuse me, early game and end game does not matter. But it's cool to have extra, lowering, I guess. It's doing something. But the real bang for your buck stacking it would actually be tier 1 and 2. If you had coordinators, if you had basically all three of you guys with tier 1 and tier 2, and you had more the merrier, and you had other recruiting perks, you could probably get someone legitimately by week 2 or week 3, which is insane. So it's interesting to me how this category kind of works, where on its own, it's not very good. But when you stack it with others, it's actually the best of the hybrid trees. Now, do I think Strategist fully stacked out is better than, Elite Recruiter? No. Elite Recruiter is much better. Or do I think it's better than CEO or Program Builder? Or no, those are still better. So it's a respectable perk when stacked. Let me just put it that way. It's respectable. But I don't advise you majority of the time ever buying this perk. Again, not the worst perk in the game, but certainly was nowhere near as well as advertised as it was. So I appreciate you guys. This is an hour and 48-minute recording. So if you're still here, appreciate y'all. Slap a like on this video, leave a comment down below, and let me know about your, idea of this perk. Did this video change your mind? Did you learn anything? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's get to the shout outs, baby. As always, huge special shout outs to all our channel supporters, the OGs, the new fam, all of you guys. I absolutely appreciate you, the moon and back. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Throw me a follow or sub on Twitch. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you can, please become a member. Members do help my channel out a ton, and you get a lot of cool perks, privileges in the Discord, voting for future videos, stuff like that. VIP, early access to my videos. All the videos you guys have seen recently were posted a couple days earlier for members. So if you want to always be, get my content early, highly recommend becoming a member. It would support me a ton. Much love. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to Zachary. Dude went crazy with the 20 dono last stream. Appreciate you, brother. Shout out to all of our amazing members. And yeah, guys, I will see you in the next one. Deuces.